Hello, and welcome in everyone. This video will cover a couple of different topics, which I will clearly mark in chapters, which you can see in the video description below and in the video progress bar. Firstly, a brief description and history of the Blücher, its introduction into the game in the new Dockyard and its availability, what I think of its performance, and whether I believe she's worth the investment in doubloons and playing time. I will show you the recommended build I'm using, followed by an in-depth review guide of the ship's strengths and weaknesses, all the while demonstrating a playstyle and tactics that I do find to suit and generally get the best out of this ship. Now, if you find this video helpful, please consider subscribing for future content. It's a great way of helping the channel for free. And if you really like the content and would like to earn some extra in-game goodies, check out the join option. You can find more details in the pinned comment below the video, and my thanks to all of my supporters. So let's dive into the Blücher. Blücher was the second ship of the Admiral Hipper class of heavy cruisers to be completed, and was one of the main participants in the German invasion of Norway, Operation Weserübung, in 1940. Now, as a flagship of the squadron intended to capture Oslo, Blücher was sunk in an engagement with the Norwegian coastal fortifications on the 9th of April 1940. Blücher will be available in the upcoming Dockyard, which consists of 20 phases, 18 of which can be completed through combat missions. Now, the remaining 2 phases will have to be purchased with doubloons, either individually or as part of starter packs. Now, each phase can be purchased for 2,000 doubloons, but there are also starter packs available of 2 and 6 phases, available for 3,200 and 7,800 doubloons respectively. Now, boiled down, the cheapest possible price you can get the Blücher for is 3,200 doubloons, should you choose to pick one of these starter packs at the beginning. Should you wait, you will have to pay a minimal of 2 phases, which can cost you 4,000 doubloons in total, should you wait until the end. So the cheapest price, 3,200 doubloons. I do think this is a pretty good deal. Now, 3,200 doubloons is the minimum price for which you can attain the Blücher, and I do think this is not the worst deal in the world. For what the ship is able to present and how she performs at tier 9, that is an obvious drawback, of course, at tier 9 in the game. But for 3,200 doubloons, I think this ship is definitely worth it. Now, it's not just the 3,200 doubloons, it is a significant amount of playtime. You will have to complete the other 18 phases by completing combat missions. But all in all, I do recommend the ship. So I'll start by quickly putting up the captain build, including the ship upgrades and the captain skills. I will, however, draw special attention to engine room protection in slot 2. I do find the engine to be very susceptible to incapacitation, and this can be quite annoying at times. The engine on same tier German cruisers has this same issue, like Hipper and Ruin, and Blücher is no exception. So I highly recommend ignoring the hydro mod and damage control systems. It's no guarantee that your engine is not going to get knocked out, but anything you can do to mitigate this, it will work in the long run, trust me. Now, in relation to this captain, it's only a 19-point commander, as it's just a test commander that we were forced to use while testing this ship. Now, with a full 21-point commander, I would highly recommend using your Luchthansa captain, for example, for some spicy additional buffs on occasion, and I would probably drop focus fire training and go with survivability, and then maybe last stand as an alternative to this build. But one could also build into top grade gunner. It seems quite flexible on that front. I do like having the heavy AP shells, as I am using primarily a lot of AP shells on targets. Blücher does feature improved dispersion and improved ricochet angles and flat ballistics, so this does vastly improve the performance of the armor piercing shells. So this is the build I have been primarily using during testing. Now, I'm not banging my own drum, but just for the first time viewer, I do have almost 8,000 games in cruisers on my account with over a 60% win rate. So I can attest to the solidity of this choice of upgrades and captain skills. So like any decent review, we will start with the armor layout, just using a simple screenshot of the armor viewer in port. We can see fore end plating, deck plating, aft end plating, all 27mm. There is a side plating of torpedo protection covering the belt of 27mm. So typical Hipper class, very same as what you would find on the tier 8 Hipper and the Ruin at tier 9. You get a fore end armor belt of 40mm. The main Citadel armor belt is 80mm. There is an aft end armor belt of 70mm, while the superstructure is 16mm. Now, if we look at the ship's Citadel, we can tell it is primarily submerged under the waterline, running from the rear to the front turret. If we look at the Admiral from the bow, we can see the Admiral armor is 80mm, but there is nice internal deck sloping here, which is great for mitigating incoming fire. So this ties in directly to the survivability. Blücher with this build gets a base of 47,600 hit points with a torpedo protection damage reduction of 10%. This is further reinforced by having 5 repair parties with this build that can repair with the flag 285 hit points per second for 28 seconds, which is all told 7,980 hit points max per repair party. Now, not only does Blücher get hydroacoustic search, this is very strong German hydro. You can detect torpedoes at 4 kilometers and enemy ships in smoke screens and behind islands, for example, at 6 kilometers. So very strong German hydro, which I would recommend. You do have the extra availability of defensive fire in the same slot should you be queuing up consistently with carriers, for example, but I would definitely recommend going with hydro. You have a choice between a spotter aircraft, which improves the firing range by 20%. It's active for 100 seconds, and you have a fighter consumable on the same slot. So a choice between spotter and fighter. Now, what also greatly enhances Blücher's survivability is a 15% engine boost consumable. Now, this is very strong, especially when combined with the propulsion mod. It's very easy, and there are multiple examples of this where I'm just combining the prop mod and speed boost to avoid incoming fire and incoming aircraft attacks. It's very, very effective at rapidly changing directions and enhancing acceleration. Very useful indeed. Let's take a look at the Blücher's main battery guns. Now, as I already stated, they do boast improved dispersion, but realistically it's the same as the Admiral Hipper and the Ruin. But they do have improved ricochet angles and flat shell ballistics, so they perform quite well. Blücher gets 8 203mm guns, housed in 4 twin-mounted turrets, 2 fore and 2 aft. They have a 10.6 second reload, which is virtually the same as the Admiral Hipper. Curiously enough, Blücher has access to main battery mod 3, but despite this, they have the same reload, essentially, as the Hipper. You do get some additional range. The max firing range is 18.5 kilometers, and you get high explosive with the traditional very strong German penetration of 51mm. These high explosive shells have a 15% fire chance and a max damage of 2,500 with a shell speed of 925 meters per second. The armor piercing with this build, you get an improved damage of 6,405 with the same shell speed. The turret traverse is also quite decent, 180-degree turning time of 18 seconds. Blücher also gets a secondary battery, 6 twin-mounted 105mm guns. They have a range of 8.3 kilometers, firing high explosive shells. Same German penetration, very good. 26mm of pen, 1200 max damage, 6% fire chance, and a 900 meter per second down speed. So a 10.6 second reload and a max firing range of 18.5 kilometers. This can be improved to 22.2 kilometers when launching the spotter aircraft, an additional 20%. Moving to the torpedoes, decent torpedo armament. You get 4 X3 launchers, 2 on each side. These have a 80-second reload time. You have 8 kilometers in range, 13,700 max damage. They have a max speed of 60 knots with a detectability range of 1.3 kilometers. So quite effective in close quarters for when things get up close and personal in late game. So decent torpedoes. In terms of airstrike, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more range here, but 7 kilometers is as good as it's going to get. You get 25-second reload on these depth charge airstrikes with 2 available flights, 1 aircraft dropping 2 bombs, and these have a max bomb damage of 4,200. So 7 kilometers in range, 2 bombs, 4,200 damage. In terms of AA defense, the continuous average damage is 165, which doesn't sound too promising at first glance, but fortunately you do get 7 shell explosions per flak salvo with a max damage of 1470. The priority sector reinforcement is 75% and the firing range is 5.2 kilometers. Now the CV rework is currently underway on a separate server, and also the changes to AA are in progress, so it remains very much to be seen what kind of effect or changes will be made to AA in the future, but at the moment this is okay. In terms of maneuverability, Blücher gets a base speed of 32.8, that can be improved with the Sierra Mike signal flag to 34.4, and when the engine boost is active, you can attain almost 40 knots in straight line speed. The turning circle radius is 740 meters, and the rudder shift time with this build is 8.3 seconds. So finally, stats-wise, we come to the Blücher's concealment. Concealment rating of 65, which equates to a surface detection of 11.2 kilometers. You will be surface detected by enemy submarines and aircraft at 5.8 kilometers. So this is the Blücher, very famously sunk by Scandinavian coastal guns in 1940 during the assault on Oslo. If you have played other German cruisers in the game, this does feel right at home in the mix. The guns perform pretty well on average. I have noticed a general trend since the ship has come out of testing and it's in its final state. The average damage is climbing per game, and that is usually a very strong sign. The accuracy is decent, the shell ballistics are flat, allowing you to land a lot of shells on target. The penetration is excellent. You have a high explosive with very good penetration as backup. So you have all the tools to be able to apply damage, no matter what the circumstance. I find Blücher kiting is very, very strong indeed. The armor profile is excellent. In this game, we tanked virtually 1.5 million potential, and we had the potential to do so much more. Game ended early, we still had multiple heals at our disposal. So very, very tanky, especially when kiting in the mid to long range zone. Sticking close to friendly ships to bunch up your AA is always going to be a recommended tactic.
Maschinenboost aktiviert.
And keeping these guns firing at targets while remaining angled is going to work in the long run. Very strong combination. So I do recommend the Blücher for anyone who enjoys German cruisers. It's a real historical ship being added to the game, which I always approve of. If you'd like to see some live gameplay, feel free to come over and visit me on Twitch. You can see the link here on screen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.